Okay, good. So the meeting has been recorded. Last week we had started on homeostasis, and we were talking about what homeostasis is and basically why it's important, why we need it. And this week we're going to be talking about osmoregulation and excretion. All right. But before we go on, can you all just remind me what is homeostasis? You can type the answers, you can unmute your mic to say the answer, it's fine. No problem, David. All right, so what basically is homeostasis? Excellent. Excellent, both of you, Desha and Dimitri. So it's the regulation of the body's internal environment. Very good. And yes, the body does this by controlling bodily temperatures, glucose level, and water concentration levels. So excellent answers, right? So today we're going to look at excretion, all right, which still ties into the regulation of bodily fluids. And we're going to talk about osmoregulation, which will outline basically how the body maintains its concentration of fluids in the body as well. Um, so I'm going to share the PowerPoint with you so we can get started. Okay. All right. So basically, we have excretion. Now, we came across a similar word, a similar terminology before when we were doing digestion. All right. And now we are coming to excretion. Okay. But I want to know from you, what do you all think? Okay. So we have excretion and we have egestion, right? If excretion, as is outlined here, is getting rid of metabolic waste, what is egestion? Not the intake of nutrients. Guess again. Oh, yes, Dimitri says getting rid of undigested food. Very good. Yeah. So anything that the body was not able to digest, it gets rid of it. All right. So remember, we spoke about like roughage and dead red blood cells and things like that. All of that is passed out in the process of egestion. Ingestion is when you take in substances. So you ingest, you take in. All right. So you eat anything that you would eat basically. All right. Or drink. Okay, that's okay, Desha, it's fine. Right, so once everybody understands the difference between excretion and egestion, that is a huge thing because a lot of students get it mixed up all of the time, all right? And it's two completely different processes, all right? Because excretion is getting rid of metabolic waste. And as we spoke of several times, metabolic waste is produced as a result of the chemical reactions which take place in our cells. All right. So, like for example, waste that would have been produced as a result of respiration. All right. So all of these little byproducts, these substances that we get from different chemical reactions, you know, not all of it we would be able to use. A lot of it we have to get rid of because it would be toxic to us. Okay, so that is what, in essence, excretion literally is. Okay, and it's different from egestion because egestion has to do with the removal of undigested material. Okay. So what we need to learn in this whole lesson are these key points, all right? So we need to know, first of all, before we even get to the formation of urea, we need to know what is urea, and we need to understand why the body has to form urea, what processes lead up to the formation of urea and why this is essential. Okay, we need to understand how it is excreted and how other things like carbon dioxide, water, and salts are also excreted. All right. You need to, of course, with all of this, we will encounter the kidney. All right, and also we will have to learn how to label and relate structure to function of each part of the kidney. Now, for those of you who are doing CSEC, you'll need to draw and label and explain. Those of you who are doing GCE, you'll basically need to know how to label and explain. Okay, the drawing part is not necessary, at least at this point, okay? So we need to know to identify features such as ureters, the bladder, urethra on diagrams of the urinary system. And you will need to utilize these terminologies and your understanding of the anatomy of the urinary system in order to explain how the body gets rid of unwanted waste material in this matter. All right, you all need to know about the liver, describe various functions of the liver, outline the structure of the kidney, outline the structure of the kidney tubule and how it functions. And then finally, seeing at how we are talking about the kidney and how it and about its responsibilities, you also need to know about kidney failure. So therefore, this will bring us to dialysis. So we're going to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of kidney transplant as compared with dialysis, and of course what goes on when a patient receives a kidney transplant and what goes on when patients undergo dialysis. Okay, so let's go. All right, so this was the question that I had asked you all earlier about is excretion the same as egestion and what is the difference between the two? And as we know now, it is different in these capacities. So egestion has to do with the removal of undigested material in feces. And always remember that egestion occurs as the result of digestion. All right? So you ingest, you digest, and then you egest. That is basically the step-by-step that leads to egestion, okay? You ingest, you digest, and then you egest. And that is when you poop. With excretion, right, that happens that happens to remove waste products that would have been produced by chemical reactions, right? So metabolic reactions then that would have occurred in your cells. That is what we call excretion. So basically, carbon dioxide, urea, okay, excess water, anything else that your body doesn't need. Okay, so one happens as a result of digestion, and excretion is the other one that happens as a result of metabolic reactions, which occurs in cells. Once you'll identify the differences between the two, you won't get mixed up with it. Okay, so always take that into consideration. Some questions would, especially multiple choice questions, would like to mess you all up with that. So just know what is the major difference that separates the two, and you will be good to go. All right. Okay. So let's get into the discussion of excretion. All right. Now, remember, we were just saying that excretion occurs as a result of metabolic reactions. So what happens is that, you know, in order for daily life to happen, a series of reactions occur within your cells. You have respiration taking place, you have enzyme reactions taking place, you have all sorts of things taking place. And with all of these metabolic reactions, or in other words, chemical reactions, which are taking place on a daily basis, you also will have products or substances that will be produced as a result of these processes. Now, these products are known as byproducts because they weren't in the original, it's not to say like they were originally desired, okay? It's just that they happen to be formed as a result of the reaction that takes place. All right, so like for example, remember when it is you'll go through aerobic respiration, you get energy, and energy is the main outcome. That is what you really, really want out of this reaction of respiration, right? But in addition to that, you also get water, which is okay, fine, but you get carbon dioxide. Now, remember, carbon dioxide being a byproduct of aerobic respiration is not really wanted within the human body. It's not wanted at all, okay? So you now will have to get rid of that, and your body expels carbon dioxide when you breathe out, right? Remember, we were talking about the whole thing about gaseous exchange. Oxygen comes in, carbon dioxide goes out. When the blood passes through the lungs, carbon dioxide diffuses out of your capillaries into the alveoli of the lungs, and then it goes out when you exhale. Everybody remembers that, right? We had not too long done that, so you all should remember. All right, and then we looked at the different diagrams, and Emily's mom had brought in the charts with the lungs, and remember we were talking about um, how the journey of oxygen from the outside to the blood and so forth. So you should remember that. If you don't, then you need to go back and review it. All right. So so yeah, so that is just an example, a small example of excretion. All right. Um, with the carbon dioxide and your body getting rid of it. Okay. Um, Apart from that, and apart from humans, needing to get rid of carbon dioxide, um, in plants, remember, carbon dioxide is needed, all right? So like in the case of plants, remember, they too will undergo respiration. That's how plants will get energy, because of respiration. And also, plants as well, they would utilize the carbon dioxide in photosynthesis. All right. So the carbon dioxide will be produced from the respiration, and it will be used in photosynthesis, but not all of it might be used. Whatever it is the plant would not use will of course be excreted. All right, but typically most of it would be used in photosynthesis, and it will take in excess carbon dioxide from the air, or well, not really excess, but it will take in additional carbon dioxide, is a better word, from the atmosphere to be used in photosynthesis as well. All right. So unlike humans, remember, humans don't photosynthesize. So we will need to get rid of that carbon dioxide ASAP, because a buildup of carbon dioxide in your body will end up poisoning your whole system, and you'll die. All right. Okay, so does anybody have any questions at this point, or we all good so far? Yeah, we all good?
Good, Miss.
All right, thank you. Okay. Now, before we get into detail into talking about how excretion occurs in mammals, namely the human body, we're going to talk a little bit about excretion in plants. All right. No, don't get that weird idea in all your heads that plants have to pee. No. Excretion occurs differently in plants, right? So just as how I was explaining to you about how carbon dioxide is removed, in plants, remember, carbon dioxide, though it's produced as a waste product of respiration, some of it will be utilized by the chloroplast in the process of photosynthesis. All right, so that is one way that plants could get rid of the gaseous component. However, and then remember, plants have stomata as well, which are pores through which gases can enter and leave the plant. But plants don't only rely on that mechanism to get rid of excretory products. They also excretory products can also leave the plant when leaves fall off. All right. So basically, if it's not diffused out, some will be stored in leaves, and then it will be removed from the plant when the leaves fall off. All right. Some excretory products could just stay in the plant and it could act as a defense mechanism in order for animals to stay away from it and not eat the plant. Um, and maybe what happens as well is that in certain plants, as we will see a little bit later on, some excretory products actually form the oils, which would be like a characteristic scent that we would get from the plant. All right, so we'll talk all of that in more detail, but all of those are processes of excretion in plants. All right. Okay. So apart from glucose, sorry, oxygen is produced as a product of photosynthesis. Now, not all of this oxygen will go off into the atmosphere. Some of it will be utilized by the plants for respiration. Okay, so whatever excess they have, it will be excreted through the stomata. Okay. Um, right. So as I was explaining to you all briefly before, other excretory products can be removed from the plants when leaves fall. So this is another reason why you would also see leaves turning yellow. They will change color. All right, because what will happen as well is that the excretory products will build up in the leaves, they will change color, and then eventually, well, they'll become weakened. And as the breeze blow, and just sometime in the lifespan of the plant, the leaves will fall off. Okay, they also will contain crystals of calcium oxalate. All right, now calcium oxalate crystals, these are basically like responsible for the oils and the scents that you would have in certain plants like eucalyptus, pimento, even citrus plants as well, cinnamon, all of that. These um, these are actually converted into the calcium oxalate crystals. All right, so some of your waste products will be converted into the calcium oxalate, which is responsible for the oils and the scents that you will get. And because of its pungent odor, a lot of animals will be deterred from eating them. All right, so it's not only good for us to use because like eucalyptus and so forth, we utilize that in aromatherapy, right? So it's good for us and it's also good for the plants. So it's a win-win situation in that regard, right? Um, in other in other circumstances, you have excretory products that are taken to the dead structures in the plants and they are just kept there. All right, so like in many trees, you will have tannins. Now, tannins, they are responsible for, not only the external appearance, but they are also responsible for how the plant is shaped, its aspect. Is also responsible for how, the taste that you will get in your mouth if it is you do decide to eat the barks of the tree. All right, so if any animal takes a bite out of it, it will most likely spit it out because it doesn't have a very pleasant taste. All right, and the tannins as well also help to protect the plant against bacteria and fungi. So hence it would protect the plant again, or the tree in this case, against rotting and also against being eaten. All right, so in summary, excretion in plants, you have different forms of it. Okay, so plants could get rid of excess gases through diffusion. All right, so these excess gases would be diffused through the stomata. Other than that, you have some of these excretory products that would be converted to calcium oxalate crystals, which would remain in the plant and it would, be responsible for that characteristic scent that you would get in most plants. Some of it would be converted into tannins, which would protect the tree against being eaten or against rotting. Okay. Also, some of these waste products as well in plants can be stored in leaves and then it would be removed from the plant, sorry, when the leaves fall off. All right, so think about the leaves as acting like a sewer system. So it will just go inside and then I'll eventually get rid of it, right? All right. Did I lose anybody at this point, or you all good so far?
We good, Miss.
All right. Thank you. All right. So let's talk a little bit about leaf fall now. All right, which is one form of excretion in plants. Now, oh, sorry, that's a typo here. I put trace instead of trees. It's supposed to be TREES. I know I sent this PowerPoint to you all already, but you could change it. I could always send over the PowerPoint to you. That's not a problem. Sorry about that. Right? So you have two different types of trees. When it is you're talking about leaf fall, you will come across two different types of trees. All right? Um, you have deciduous trees and you have evergreen trees. All right? So deciduous trees seasonally shed their leaves. So dry season, winter. All right? Times when those types of trees will shed their leaves. All right, what happened is that the word deciduous itself means tending to fall off, or it will mean falling off. All right, so like your oak trees, maple trees, these are all examples of deciduous trees. All right, and you would actually see it is visibly noticeable when the tree is shedding its leaves. All right, and then evergreen trees, they are called evergreen trees because even though they lose leaves, it does so at such a very small, it does so at small intervals, right? Little few at a time. So because it doesn't really lose a whole bunch of leaves at the same time, it would appear to be evergreen. So the trees just look like it always full of leaves, like no matter what, they just always have leaves. Um, so examples of these would be like your pine trees, eucalyptus, and even cedar trees. All right, they always appear to be full of leaves, but it is wrong. They do lose leaves, just not as rapidly or as much as the deciduous trees will. All right, and well, of course, that will all lead to where the trees would typically grow. So like seeing that how an oak tree is an example of a deciduous tree, the type of climate that you would find that in will not be one that will, it will be one that will allow for it to seasonally shed its leaf according to the season that you would find. All right. And then your evergreen trees will be found in a climate that would, allow for it to just lose leaves few at a time. All right. So remember, we spoke about environment and organisms, and the environment, different organisms are designed to live in certain environments. It's something like that. All right. Now, when it is you're talking about leaf fall, you have a few steps that happens before the leaf actually falls off. So your waste substances will accumulate in the leaf first. All right, naturally, it has to be stored in there. All right, when you are talking about leaf fall as well, the word abscission comes up. All right, which is, so what happens is that when you have the accumulation of waste substances in the leaves, what happens is that an abscission layer, or a layer of loosely packed cells, is formed at the base of your leaf stalk. Okay, when that happens, you have a kind of waxy waterproof layer as well that would be formed on the side of the stem, and then this would make it very weak, so that it makes it weak, and it also cuts it off from the rest of the plant. Okay, so your veins will become blocked, and then the leaf will eventually die, and it will get blown off by the wind. Because when it is cut off from the rest of the plant, remember, that particular leaf or few leaves won't be able to receive nutrients from the rest of the plant, because they are storing up waste substances. So it has to be cut off from the rest of the plant, so nothing will seep, none of the waste products will seep back into the plant. And then remember, the whole idea is to get rid of the waste. So in order for you to get rid, you have to be cut off from the main organism, and then eventually you just had to, fly off. All right, so that is how the leaves would fall and why it is leaves would fall. All right, and I just have this photo over here, which kind of summarizes it. So basically, whenever it is dealing with the excretion of gases, your gases will diffuse out during your stomata. Oxygen is produced during photosynthesis, so hence excess oxygen, sorry, as well, would be excreted during daylight because that is when photosynthesis is at its peak, right? That is when plants photosynthesize mostly. Carbon dioxide would be excreted at night because it is produced during respiration. Okay. And then how you'll see in this other on the left hand side, this third point on the left hand side where the arrow is drawn, the leaf is on the ground because that is an example that is showing you that other excretory products are gotten rid of from the plant when your leaves fall. All right. Okay, so how are you all at this point? Talk to me. You're good?
Good, miss.
All
Good.
right, great. All right, wonderful. At any point, feel free to um, type your questions or just pause me if in case you're being lost or I'm going too fast or anything, okay?
Okay, miss.
All right. Right, so excretion in mammals. Mammals are not covered by leaves, all right? We covered by hair, but we're not covered by leaves. So therefore, excretion in mammals would take place differently. So we have gaseous exchange taking place as well. We will get rid of our carbon dioxide that would be produced by cellular respiration when you breathe out. All right, so that is how carbon dioxide leaves your body. And remember, just to reiterate the process, your remember when it is your blood goes through your lungs in order to be oxygenated again, all right, waste gas like carbon dioxide will diffuse out of the blood through the walls of your capillary, enters into the alveoli, which will then exit the body when you exhale, all right, and that is how carbon dioxide leaves your body. But that is not the only form of excretion that happens in mammals. All right. We also will have excess water and salt that will need to be removed. So our kidneys are responsible for removing excess water and salts. Urea, for example, which we're going to delve deeper into because you all have to understand how urea is formed and why urea is formed in the body. It is produced by the breakdown of excess proteins by the liver, all right? And that urea is what is produced is what you find in urine, all right? And it is excreted by the kidney, all right? So that urea is also responsible for the smell of your urine. Bile pigments are also produced and gotten rid of in feces. So it's produced by the breakdown of hemoglobin in the liver and it is excreted in the feces. It is also responsible for the brown color of feces, all right, when hemoglobin is breakdown and also your dead red blood cells. All right, so that's just in a nutshell how excretion happens in mammals. So we go in more into it now. All right, so here's where we're going to talk about urea. We're going to talk about why is it that urea has to be produced and how it is going to be produced. All right. Now, what happens is that when it is you consume excess protein in your diet, you produce what is called nitrogenous waste, which is just basically waste that contains nitrogen compounds in it. All right. Now, we cannot keep this in our bodies.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Take a chat, please.
sure, sorry. Oh, and yes, they shall like mango trees. No, mucus is not an excretory product. What happened is that mucus is naturally secreted by cells that line your esophagus and also by cells in the nasal passage. What that does is that well, mucus within the body, or that is naturally produced in your esophagus, that will help to slide the food along into your stomach without any hesitation, without any resistance then. The mucus that is produced in your nasal passages, that is responsible for trapping any pathogens that would try to enter your body when it is you breathe in. So what happens is that it will be trapped in your mucus. It will either be swallowed and go down into your stomach where the hydrochloric acid will destroy those pathogens. Or when it is, what happens is that, you know, sometimes you will just feel like a buildup of mucus and you will cough and then you will spit it out. That is also your body's mechanism of getting rid of that mucus that contains the germs and pathogens from the air. So it's not really considered to be an excretory process. You understand? Okay, wonderful. I'll keep the screen like this so that I'll be able to see the chat because I was really hoping to see the I was checking it constantly to see when it lights up orange, but it didn't. So I'll keep it like this so that I can see when it lights up. Okay. Right, so with nitrogenous waste now, yes, so when it is you consume excess proteins and amino acids, what happened is that it contains nitrogen in it, all right? And the form of nitrogen that it will contain is ammonia. So what happened is that your body, this is extremely toxic for your body. We cannot store it. So what happens is that your liver will then break down these nitrogen containing products, all right, from the protein. It will break it down into a more soluble and less toxic form. However, it still has to be gotten rid of by the body, but at least it's more soluble in the form of urea and it is less toxic. All right. So urea is formed by the liver, and all of these conversion processes occur in the liver, and it is removed from the body by the kidneys when it is you urinate. All right. So you all know, you all remember the process when it is with the digestion, how the digestive enzymes in your stomach, all right, the duodenum and the ileum, they break down your proteins into amino acids. Because remember, amino acids, they make up your proteins, right? Depending on how it is formed, which is determined by your DNA, it it will form different proteins. Your amino acids, sorry, will be folded to form different proteins, which ultimately determines what is the cellular function. All right, so hence the reason your proteins are broken down into amino acids. All right, then these amino acids, once they are broken down, they are absorbed into your blood, into the blood capillaries in the villi of the ileum, as we remember. All right, remember we looked at the structure of the villi and we saw how the capillaries are wrapped around it. And these blood capillaries have, of course, blood in it. So it's able, so the nutrients now in your small intestine after digestion has occurred, it's small enough to pass through the walls of the capillaries to enter into your bloodstream. And that is how nutrients actually enter into your body. All right. But you know, it doesn't stop there. It's not like, okay, digestion happened, all of your carbohydrates are broken down, your proteins are broken down, your fats are broken down, and that's it, right? What happens is that your digested food has to be taken to the liver for further processing. Okay, so it when after all of the digestion takes place, remember we spoke about your hepatic portal vein. So anything that has to do with the liver or liver related is hepatic. All right, so the hepatic portal vein connects your small intestine to the liver, and all digested food is in essence taken to the liver for further processing. All right. Right. So what happens is that your liver makes sure that your body utilizes every bit of nutrient and doesn't waste anything. Okay, so while some of the amino acids would, travel along the blood and will go to, your regular body systems as normal and your cells, if you have extra amino acid, your body not just going to move to, discarding them. Okay, what will happen is that there are still useful products in these amino acid molecules. All right, so because they are still useful substances, your liver now will, break apart the amino acid molecule, and there is a part of this amino acid molecule which contains energy. All right, so then that part that contains energy could be used by the body. All right, remember we learned that proteins have they do provide us with some amount of energy, but not a lot as fats and carbohydrates would. So the part now of your amino acid molecule which contains energy will be converted into glycogen. All right, so apart from your normal excess glucose, which will be converted into glycogen for future use, you also have your protein, part of your amino acid molecules, which would contain energy in them. It is converted into glycogen and stored in your liver. All right, and then when your body needs it, it will be broken down and eventually, you will be able to utilize the glycogen in the form of glucose when after it is broken down, and your body will use that in respiration, and that is how you will get energy from stored energy. Okay, you're with me so far?
Yes, Miss.
Okay, wonderful. Right. Right. So while there is part of the amino acid that is, useful to the body still, part of the amino acid that contains this energy, the other part is what needs work. Okay, so the rest of the amino acid is what will contain the nitrogen compound. All right, and that part is what needs to be converted into urea, which is a less toxic form, in order to be passed out by your kidneys. All right, and when it is you urinate. Now the process by which amino acid is broken down by the liver is called deamination. So as the name suggests, it is the breakdown of amino acid, right? As you could see, you could see amin in the word. So deamin, it comes from, amino acid. So you are removing some component of the amino acid, and that's how the term is born. Remember, I said that your terms in biology or in science in general typically always have to do with the process that they refer to. So by understanding how the word is formed, you can understand how the process occurs, whatever the process is. So in this case, deamination, breakdown of amino acid in order to convert urea into, in order to convert nitrogen into urea. Okay, so you remove the nitrogen containing part of the amino acids, all right, and that nitrogen substance is actually ammonia. All right, so the chemical formula for ammonia, which you chemistry students should be aware of, is NH3. So the N there stands for nitrogen. So hence the reason it is the nitrogen containing part of the amino acid that you are removing. Okay. So what happened is that your ammonia is very, very toxic. So you can't let it accumulate, and you cannot allow it to to be stored in the human body either. So hence the reason it has to be broken down. All right. So like your normal reaction in the human body, you need enzymes in order for reactions to be carried out in a good amount of time. All right, so that there would be no buffer. Okay, so you have deaminases, which are the enzymes in your liver cells that are responsible for the conversion of ammonia in order for you to get urea. So what happens is that this whole process occurs via hydrolysis, all right, which is the involvement of water. So through hydrolysis now and the reaction of deaminases enzymes in your liver cells, carbon dioxide will react with the ammonia molecule to produce urea and water. All right, so the urea now will dissolve in the water and it would be taken straight to your kidneys. And urea is more soluble, a lot more soluble. So it just makes life easier for your body. All right, and it's it's less toxic than ammonia. All right, so your key terminologies here would be deamination. Deamination occurs with the help of deaminase enzymes, and the whole reaction by which ammonia is broken down to urea is hydrolysis. All right, so all of these terms are just the important part of that. Right, so the urea, remember we just said that it is less toxic and it is more soluble. What happens is that that form, now urea, it can be dissolved in the blood plasma, and that is how it will be taken to your kidneys where it will be excreted, all right, when it is you pee. All right, so remember, anything that has to be transported around your body needs to be converted into a soluble form. And it has to be soluble because remember, it is going to be dissolved into the blood plasma, which is more of the watery component of blood. Okay? And as we were talking about last week, remember, we spoke about the components of the skin and we spoke about what sweat actually comprises of. So remember, we said that in addition to containing water and salt, sweat also contains a very small amount of urea. All right, so it's not that you're peeing through your pores, it's just that a very, very minute amount is excreted when you sweat. So but the majority of it is excreted when you urinate. All right, and the urea, which is dissolved in the water when you pass it out, is responsible for that yellow color that you see. And the stronger that this color is in your urine means that you are dehydrated. It should be very pale yellow, or it should be typically clear. And that's how you would know that you are properly well hydrated. All right, and of course, the more concentrated that your urine is, means that your urea is a lot more in it, and well, of course, you would get the typical scent that you will get because of ammonia. All right, it's a less toxic form of ammonia. That's why it smells the way that it does. All right, now imagine your liver is responsible for all of that. Your liver is responsible for sorting out all of breaking down the molecules, sorting out all of the digested food. All right, it's even stores glycogen, for future use. It is responsible for all of these things, but it is also responsible for these other functions. All right, so your liver is quite busy and it is quite essential in the human body. So, it is always good to take care of yourself, all right, in order to not put strain on vital organs such as your liver. So, you'll need to know the functions of your liver as well. You need to know that it converts excess amino acids into urea, carbohydrates, and carbohydrates, which is all involved in the process of deamination. You need to know that it synthesizes or it makes plasma proteins such as fibrinogen from the amino acids as well. So it takes the amino acids, some of the amino acids, and it uses this to make fibrinogen. And does anybody remember what is the role of fibrinogen? Why do you need fibrinogen in your blood? Excellent, excellent. Right, so it's essential for blood clotting. Yes, it seals up wounds, very good. All right, so what will happen is that when clotting factors are activated in your blood, the fibrinogen is converted to the insoluble form of fibrin, as Dimitri said, and that is what is responsible for sealing up wounds, as Desha said. All right, and well, we spoke about why that is important, okay? Because remember, you can't have pathogens entering into your body, because anytime you get a cut or a laceration, that provides a gateway for all those greedy, hungry pathogens to enter into your body, which we don't want. All right, so excellent. All in memory clicking, man, that's very good. Right? Okay, so in addition to all of that, your liver is also responsible for storing the carbohydrate glycogen. So remember, it says, we said that excess, so the energy part of the amino acid is converted to glycogen. It's a polysaccharide, meaning that it is not soluble. Only when your body needs it will it be broken down from glycogen to glucose in order for your body to utilize it for respiration, right? So function number 5, the liver makes bile. Why is bile essential? Why does the human body need bile? What does bile do? Let me see who can answer that question first. Yes, very good. Emulsify fats. Excellent. So it breaks down large droplets of fat into smaller ones so that your lipase could break it down easier. All right, excellent. Yes, very good, Desha.
Miss, I had it to know, but like I couldn't remember how to spell emulsify. Okay.
You could
I too long to type, and I didn't want to spell it wrong because, like, you know.
Well, you know, Emily, I was not going to say, but wait, Emily does normally be typing, she answers and have it there, and by the time I ask the question, she press enter because I know you're trying to be Dimitri now.
Yeah, but I was like, wait, how you spell emulsify? And like,
I just say breakdown.
but I wanted to say the right thing.
Okay, I understand. Respect, but at least I know that you knew it and you remembered, so still a plus for you, right? So very good. All right, number 6. Remember, your liver is also responsible for breaking down old red blood cells. So it stores the iron from it, and it will excrete the remains of the hemoglobin as bile pigments, which would be which will be gotten rid of in your feces as well. It breaks down alcohol. All right, and remember, your liver is also responsible for breaking down lactic acid. So seeing at how your liver is responsible for breaking down alcohol, when it is you drink excessively and you like alcoholics, for example, too much alcohol will put a strain on your liver because that is the function of your liver to break down alcohol. If you have an excess of alcohol, it will eventually lead to cirrhosis of the liver, and that cirrhosis will damage your liver so bad until it will eventually not be functional and you can die because your body will not have a filtration factory again. Okay, so I mean, in life, everything should be enjoyed in moderation. So even alcohol, it should never be consumed so much so as to cause strain on your liver. Even eating too much of fatty foods, you shouldn't eat too much of it because that will cause a strain. It will eventually put strain on your heart because remember, the excess fats will build up on the walls of the inner walls of your arteries, which will provide an increase in your blood pressure, which will lead to an increase on the strain of your heart, which could eventually lead to heart failure. All right, so yeah, just consume everything in moderation and you will be fine, and incorporate some, exercise into your daily routine, and just to make sure that everything is working fine in your body. All right. All right. Apart from that, your liver is responsible for storing essential vitamins like A, B, D, E, and K. It also stores potassium, and it makes cholesterol, which is needed to make and repair cellular membranes. So good cholesterol. All right. So you'll need to memorize the functions of your liver. If it doesn't come in your theory paper, it will come as part of your multiple choice paper. So it's always good to know these things. All right. So take care of your liver, people. Okay. So now we delve into the production of urea. All right. So this is a roadmap actually to urea, which is actually in your textbook, the Cambridge IGCSE textbook. I also have it outlined here in a little roadmap as well, so we'll get to that one. But you'll need to be familiar with this one as well, this particular diagram, because remember I said that normally for exams, they like to stick closely with the diagrams that, would be found in your textbook, right? So hence the reason this is like that. So the purple part there is actually shaped like your liver, all right? And on the left-hand side, you're seeing that wide sort of structure, all right, where this is on the extreme left, right, where the protein, when step number 1 is on step number 2, this represents your alimentary canal and your small intestine. All right, then you have a representative here of your hepatic portal vein, and then you have the blood vessels, which will take away the substances that need to be excreted. All right, so let's go from step number 1. All right. So first of all, remember production of urea has to do with protein. All right, because urea is a more soluble, less toxic form of ammonia, which is found in protein. So step 1, the protein in food is taken to the alimentary canal. All right, so these little chains here are your amino acid chains. All right, well, okay, so this one is the whole protein chain. And then when your proteins, when your digestive system has completed the breakdown of proteins, by that time it would have reached the small intestine. So your protein molecules, after it is taken into the alimentary canal, is broken down to amino acids. So you're seeing that the rectangles, little rectangles are broken up here to indicate that your large protein molecule has now become amino acids, all right, once digestion is completed. So then now, in your small intestine, when this would have happened, after your proteins have become amino acids, it is then taken into the bloodstream in the hepatic portal vein to enter into your liver. So from the small intestine through the hepatic portal vein, it goes to the liver. All right. So once it's in the liver now, we are dealing with step number 4. Ooh, sorry. Sorry about that. Right. We are dealing with step number 4. The amino acids that are needed are released into circulation. So remember it wouldn't keep all, right? So some of it will go back into circulation of the blood, because remember, these amino acids would be needed for repairing of other tissues and cells in your body and the formation of other cells in your body, all right? So these are some of the amino acids would be sent back into the blood, while others would stay in the liver for further processing. All right, so that brings us to step number 5. your amino acids that are not needed have to go through the process of deamination. All right, so therefore, some of part of the amino acid molecules will be converted into glycogen, the polysaccharide glycogen, and remember the other part, which is the ammonia, all right, ammonia compound will be converted into urea. So whenever it is you have the breakdown of amino acids, it always comes down to two things: carbohydrates and ammonia. So the carbohydrates is what will lead us to step 6. So that carbohydrate is actually in the form of glycogen, and that is how it will be stored. So it is converted to glycogen to be stored in the liver. That takes care of that carbohydrate. The next part is the ammonia. This is toxic. You cannot keep ammonia inside of you. So therefore, your ammonia is converted into urea by the process of hydrolysis, all right? And with the help of the enzymes, deaminase, in order to convert this ammonia to urea, all right? Less toxic, more soluble, urea. Once that happens now, the urea, it brings us to step 8, will be excreted and the amino acids would be utilized, the amino acids which would be utilized by the body would be taken away by the blood. All right, so that is in essence how urea is produced. All right, so after the urea is formed, it will then be taken to the kidneys where it will be excreted in your urine. Do you all understand that process? It's a step-by-step process.
Yes.
Yeah, you all good with that? Any questions so far on that one? Yeah, shoot your question, Dimitri. Yes, your liver cells can regenerate itself. All right, so you're talking about in general, like, okay, so we have two parts of our liver, right? Um, So you're talking about it being damaged and able to repair itself while it's dealing with all of the toxic substances that it deals with? Okay. Yes, it can. It's just that, so let's just say, for example, you decide to donate part of your liver. All right. That part that you donated to somebody will be regenerated and your liver functions will still remain intact. All right. It's just that the rapidity at which these functions might occur, it might be slowed down a bit, but it shouldn't be slowed down to such a great extent. All right, but it will still be able to do all of that. And you, by either donating part of your liver or if part of your liver is damaged, you are still able to carry out those functions as well. That shouldn't be a problem for it. Did I answer your question? Okay. All right, so yeah, the body really amazing, isn't it? All right, but it's just that depending on how much of the liver is damaged and how bad the damage is, it will slow down the processes, right? But if the damage is not that bad, then no, you wouldn't even notice anything is wrong. You would just be living your life as normal and functions will occur as normal. All right. Um, so yeah, but like in the case of cirrhosis, due to excess alcohol or alcohol abuse, I would say, the more damage that the liver becomes would then mean that these functions would occur at a much slower rate until it can't anymore. All right, so it all really depends on the severity of the damage as well, but regardless of what, it still carries out its functions. Yeah. All right, great. Okay, so I outlined it here just to take out, what I did, I just took out the steps from the picture that we just saw from this picture, and I put it in this little flowchart thingy, all right? Starting from step 1 all the way to step 8. Okay, so take a look at it quickly, all right? And then I would like you all to actually list, each of you all to state one step, okay? Now, of course, you all will want, some of you all might say the same step, so just, we're gonna do this, if one person says one step, somebody else will have to say the other one until we get 8 of them, right? I think there's, how much of you, or there's 7 of you, oh, so one person will have to say one step twice. So we'll see who that lucky person is. And don't feel only go and rely on my screen sharing because I'm gonna cut it off, right? So yeah, y'all look at it quickly. I'll give you all about 2 minutes to memorize these steps, and then we'll see how much of y'all could remember. You'll have 1 more minute. All right, so time has come. Okay, so let me see. All right, so Talma. Oh gosh, Nirvana is a good one. She memorized the first one. All right. Okay, so Emily is step 4. Okay, so who's step 2? So we have step 1. Food is taken to the alimentary canal. After that comes.
Yes, it's still on the screen now.
What's the? But I pause it. Oh dear. Right, good. Right, so we have step 1. So step 2, what comes next? That is the next easy step. Once you take it to the alimentary canal, what will happen to it? What type of enzymes, Dimitri, at that point? Seeing that how it's in the alimentary canal. Right, but you could have just said digestive enzymes, right? But yeah, you are correct, right? But you could say it'll be broken down by digestive enzymes, right? Because remember at that point, it's in the digestive system, okay? So yes, it's taken into the alimentary canal, broken down by digestive enzymes. What is step number 3? Once it's broken down, where does it go? Very good, Vanna. That is still step 2. Very good, Dimitri. So it goes excellent in the hepatic portal vein. It goes to the liver. Very good. And what happens in the next step? Emily? I do believe this one is your point. Excuse me. Amino acids are right. Thank you. Okay, so the amino acids that are released into blood circulation are what? All amino acids or what? Right, so ones that are needed are released back into the blood. Very good. And then what happens next? The others stay and do what? Excellent, Desha. The excess amino acids are deaminated, you forget out one E, into carbohydrates and ammonia. Very good. And what happens to the carbohydrates and what happens to the ammonia now? Well, that is why I'm saying, look, Jesse here. Wait, David ain't come back yet since he said he gone? Right, so the carbohydrate. Okay, which one is either used or stored? The carbohydrates? Right. So yes. That's okay, we understand what you mean. so yes, the carbohydrates, some of them are stored or used. Stored in the form of what? Excellent, glycogen. And what happens to the ammonia? Excellent, it's converted to urea. Right, somebody else now tell me, how is ammonia converted to urea? Jesse could say that when I find it. No. How is it converted to urea? So I want the, yes, I agree, Jesse is very quiet. So I want the name of the process and I want the name of the enzyme responsible for the reaction, and I want the reactants involved in the reaction. What reacts with what to get what? Yeah, deamination. What's the name of the enzymes? Anybody? Deaminases, very good. And what reacts with what? No, not the amino acid at this point. The compound, right, ammonia reacts with carbon dioxide to form urea and water. Very good. And what do we call that reaction? Hydrolysis, excellent. Urea dissolves in blood plasma and is taken away. Nirvana post up, she won one time. Yeah, very good, all of you. So in the process of hydrolysis, the ammonia reacts with carbon dioxide to form urea and water. And then once that happens, the urea is dissolved in the blood plasma and is taken away to the kidneys where it will be excreted in your urine. Very good. Excellent. So does everybody understand how urea is formed and why we need to form urea? We understand, yeah? Excellent. Okay, very good. Okay. So we finished with the production of urea, and now we have to come to the kidneys. All right. So this is where you'll have to know how to label the diagram of kidneys. All right. And all of this is the whole urinary system, the excretory system, right? The whole urinary tract system. So you'll have to know how to label it and of course relate structures to functions. So here in the visual, you would see your vena cava, you would see your aorta, all right, the main branches of vessels. And then you will have the aortic, you would have your hepatic artery, which leads into your kidney, all right, which will carry blood to your kidney, and then you have your hepatic veins, which will take blood away from the kidney, so deoxygenated blood away from the kidney and to the heart, all right? Well, of course, this is your diaphragm, all right? So here you see your renal artery, your renal vein. This, of course, will be your left kidney because remember we said it's opposite. So this will be your left and this will be your right. So they actually look like red beans, and which is why they call red beans kidney beans because it resembles a kidney, right? This tube leading out from the kidney to your bladder is called your ureter, all right? And then your urethra is what leads from the bladder to the outside, right? This is what you pee through. This is where your substances like your urea, salts, and whatever water will come through to enter into your bladder, and then you pee through your urethra. And here you have a sphincter muscle. Remember, we said that, remember we discovered sphincter muscles before when we were doing your alimentary canal. And the sphincter muscles control the release and the withholding of the urine in the bladder. All right. So like babies, they won't be able to have this control. They have to grow, they have to develop that control. But and hence the reason why they have to put on pampers, and that's why they will wet their beds and so forth. All right. Even just young mammals in general. But adults now are able to have better control of this, right? So your bladder is actually able to store urine for a certain amount of time, but of course, it is never recommended to, keep up your urine because remember that could lead to urinary tract infections. Okay, so once you feel the urge, it's always recommended that you do that. All right. Of course, and you'd know like, okay, certain times, like for example, when it is you have class or, you know, just anything in general, a job interview or you're working or you have something to do, you would have to, you know, control your bladder. So this is where, you know, you would control your liquid intake and so forth to, you know, which would all affect your urine output. All right. So, but generally, adults are able to control, you know, when to release the urine and when not to release it. All right. So this is one diagram that you all need to become familiar with and besties with. All right, because you will come across it again. Apart from that, you also need to know this diagram. Longitudinal section through a kidney. All right, so here we come up to one of the red bean. So the structure is very simply laid out here. All right, so you have this darker brown portion on the outside here, which is called your cortex. All right, so this is your cortex. Right here, this paler segment is called your medulla, right here. All right, inside each kidney, all right, be it your left and your right, you have hundreds and thousands of these nephrons. All right, it's like a forest of nephrons that you have. And this, inside each of these nephrons, is where the whole processing of the liquid happens. And then whatever remains is actually passed out and goes through your pelvis and goes into your urethra, which will then take it to your bladder. All right. So these are your nephrons. This here is your pelvis area, and then you have, which leads into your urethra. So to learn this and label it and even draw it shouldn't be that hard. It's actually easier compared to some of the other drawings that you'll have to do, like for example the heart. All right. You must be able to relate structure to function as well. In this case, you mainly have to know what the nephron is responsible for and what your urethra is responsible for. All right. So your nephrons and your nephrons, this is where the actual straining of the blood happens. Okay, straining meaning that the blood goes through, it filters out whatever unwanted products that are in the blood. The rest of the blood goes back through the body as normal, and the waste products are actually passed out in your urine. All right, so we're going to delve further into this, and we're going to talk about nephrons, and we're going to talk about tubules. So let's go. But before we get there, I have these questions for you. All right. Everybody seeing?
Yeah, miss.
All right. So the first one, somebody define excretion for me.
To get rid of metabolic waste.
She decided to say it verbally. Very good. Getting rid of metabolic waste. And here, right. What do you think? What is part A?
The medulla.
Now notice what it is pointing to. Is it pointing to the medulla?
Miss, you just show us the answer.
Shucks. You see that? On my
Yeah, miss.
side? Oh, okay. It's sharing. Does not have it here. All right. Yeah. You'll show. Okay, yes, it pointed to the medulla, okay? All right. What is part B? It's right here. Hmm?
Cortex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both of y'all are right. Cortex. And what is C? You would know what is C based on what the arrows are. Very good. Hey, look, Jesse, come back all year. Renal vein, very good, because it is blood exiting. If C were pointing to this one, it would have been the what? If C was here, what would it have been?
The renal artery.
Excellent. The renal artery. Very good. Okay. This one is a question for you all to work out now. Okay, so table 1.1 shows the concentrations of 4 solutes, all right? You have solutes in the blood in the renal artery, solutes, the fluid in the kidney tubule, and also the concentration of solute in the urine, all right? So each of them, you have glucose, protein, salts, and urea. That is the concentration of each of these that is found in the blood, in the renal artery, the fluid in the kidney tubule, and in the urine. All right. So what you'll need to do is calculate the percentage increase in the concentration of urea um, between blood in the renal artery and in the urine. So you'll do your calculations and tell me what you get. Now notice that your answer has to be in percentage. So tell me what it will be. And then you'll need to identify how you'll derive the answer. Nah, not 100%. We calculate in percentage increase. So how much percentage of what is the percentage that of urea present in the blood, how much has it increased, all right, compared to it being in the urine? Blood in the renal artery and the urine, we're looking at the concentration of urea. $77 out of what? You mean for your midterm? Oh, that's no thing. That's not bad though. Yeah, you could figure this out. And you will see how easy the answer is, eh? Emily, close. You forget to do one thing. Emily, now Dimitri answer off. Emily's answer is almost right. It's just one thing she didn't do. You have to change. Now, the answer you got at the end was 99, right, Emily? But you have to change that to percentage. So how would you change it to a percent? Your value would be a big one, but how you'll change it to a percent? Right, there we go. Right, so the value you got was before the percentage, right? The value you got was actually grams per dm cube, all right? The solute concentration here. So by you getting just 99, it is not percentage here. So now that 99 would have had to have been converted to a percent, which means you move the decimal point forward to your right 2 places, and that will give you a 9900%, which is correct. Right, so for the rest of you who didn't understand what to do, basically, here's what you're doing, right? You need to calculate your percentage increase in the concentration of urea between, so you're looking here, between blood in the renal artery and the urine. First of all, you need to find out how much was the increase between these two. So what you need to do in order to find out the increase, you need to minus the two values, all right? So we go into minus 20.0 minus 0.2, which is the amount here for blood in the renal artery. And you would have gotten 19.8. You're not doing anything to it, eh? It is 19.8. You're leaving it so. Now, what you need to do is, in order to get the percentage increase, before you get to the percent, now that you have divided to get your increase, you now need to, sorry, now that you subtracted to get your increase, you need to divide it by the original number, all right? Here, the original number will be the first number that you're comparing it against. So therefore, it will be 19.8 minus divided by 0.2, which would have given you 99, plain flat 99, right? But that 99 is grams per dm cube. We didn't, we haven't converted it to percentage. Exactly, Emily, you have it very correct. We haven't converted it, all right? So now, now we need to multiply it by 100, which will give us 9900%. Very good. Excellent work, Emily. But Dimitri, you understand, right? And everybody else, I hope you all understand how we derived at the answer. So anytime you're talking about percentage increase, that is what you have to do. Minus the two values, then you have to divide it by the original value. And then if they want it in percent, well, you multiply by 100. If they don't, well, then you leave it as is, right? Everybody understands that question, or you'll still confused? Awesome. Awesome. Wonderful. Well, yes, Emily, you were the one who typed for the answer. You have to have understood.
You asked if you understand, so I'm telling you.
Oh, God. All right. Well, Dimitri, you know what you had to do. Next question. You had to be cheated, right? Excellent job, you all. And thank you, Emily, for still answering. Answering. I want to ask if everybody understands.
You're welcome, miss.
All right, so Dimitri, I'll take Ashley for the next one. All right, so this one we'll do in a bit. We have to get through that part in the PowerPoint, and then you'll do that one. Okay. Everybody's seen the PowerPoint, right? Okay, wonderful. Right, so the three main parts which comprise the kidney, the cortex, the medulla, and the pelvis, all right? As we would have seen here before, the medulla is right here, cortex is this outer part, and the pelvis is right here, okay? Right. So leading out from the pelvis now is where you have the ureter. That is where I would remember I was telling you all that it would carry the urine and all of the products that would not reabsorbed into the blood. It will then be carried via the ureter to your bladder. All right. Now your nephrons, which are these tiny things here, this whole little thing here. Your nephrons are little tiny tubules which comprise each kidney. So inside each kidney, right, you have nephrons. And each nephron begins in your cortex, sorry. It begins in your cortex. It goes down into the medulla, makes a loop, goes back up into the cortex, and then finally it goes back down again through your medulla until it actually reaches to the end there where it enters into the pelvis. All right? And that is how the structure is. And inside each of your kidney, you have hundreds and thousands of these. So if you dissect your kidney, you will find so many of these. It's like a forest in there, really. All right? Okay, so this is now going into a little bit more of a detailed structure of the nephron. This you'll also need to know. To draw and label C-Sec students, to label GCE students, right? So first of all, remember as you all had seen before in the picture, you would have your renal artery and your renal vein, yeah? Which is what these are. So that is what we are seeing here, okay? Renal artery, renal vein. And the renal artery, remember we said that arteries bring blood to an organ. So in the renal artery now, this is where the blood supply would enter into each of your kidneys and, well, by extension, your nephrons. And this is where now your blood is going to be filtered, and then eventually all of your waste products will go to your bladder, and everything else will just go back into your blood. All right, so let's look at how this works. So through the renal artery now, your blood enters into your nephron. Okay, in your nephron now, first, before it goes anywhere, it bunches up into what is called a glomerulus. All right, it is like a ball where it's like a ball of your artery. It balls up in there, and what happens is that inside there now a lot of pressure is created. All right, with the blood flow and the small spacing that it has here. All right, this little spacing that the glomerulus is contained in is called a Bowman's capsule. All right, which is your renal capsule, but it's also called your Bowman's capsule. All right, and what happened is that the glomerulus, which contains the blood, actually has a lot of pressure that is built up in it with the blood supply here and then the small space. So what happens is that your blood plasma, the contents of your blood plasma, is squeezed out of the glomerulus into the rest of the nephron. All right, only molecules that are small enough to pass through will pass through. Ones that cannot pass through will remain inside. All right, and they will just go about in the blood as normal. So like for example, water molecules are small enough. Salts would be small enough. All right, urea as well is small enough to fit through. Okay, but just now, the question. Okay, just give me 1 second. Right. So So your water, salt, and urea, those are actually comprised of smaller molecules, which can pass through. All right, but protein molecules, for example, which will be found in your blood, cannot pass through because they are too big. All right, so that one will stay, but everything else will be squeezed out of your glomerulus and enter into your Bowman's capsule, which will then continue its course along the nephron. Now, as it goes throughout, all right, all of the excess, all of the fluids that might still be needed from by your blood and by the body will be reabsorbed into the bloodstream. All right. So you're seeing here the blood capillary and how the blood capillary is found at different parts, right, wrapped throughout the nephron. So your capillaries now offer that access and that connection from the nephron to the bloodstream. So as your fluids make its way throughout the nephron, goes down, this loop here is called the loop of Henle. As it goes all the way down, whatever is needed again by the blood will be absorbed at these points where the capillaries entangle the nephron. It continues to go again, and by the time now your blood reaches this point, right, everything that should be needed by the blood would have been absorbed already. But whatever the blood doesn't need, it will then continue along its way, and the fluid now will drain out into the pelvis and will then eventually drain out into the ureter, which then links up to your bladder. So in essence, the liquid that comes out through here is what we call urine. All right. That is what will be passed out because that is not needed by the body. It's full of toxic products, mainly urea, which would have been produced by your liver. So all of that would be dissolved in some water, and it would then go out into your bladder. Okay. Now your body will absorb most of the water. Glucose as well would go through your nephrons, but what happens is that your body needs the glucose. So therefore, all of the glucose that passes out of the blood capillaries into the nephron, all of that glucose will be reabsorbed into the blood capillaries, all right? Because your body needs that. If, however, your glucose is not absorbed anywhere throughout this nephron, right, and ends up in your urine, that is an indicator of a diabetic person. Because the only way that your blood will not absorb that glucose is if the glucose concentrations are too high. So if glucose concentrations are too high, you will find glucose in your urine, which is one way of determining that a person is diabetic. All right. But however, in normal persons, glucose is not supposed to be a part of your urine. All of the glucose is supposed to be reabsorbed into the bloodstream, and therefore no glucose is supposed to be present in your urine. Your urine is supposed to mainly be comprised of salts, urea dissolved in water. All right. And that's basically the whole process of urine formation. All right, do you all understand that so far? Did I lose anybody?
No, miss.
Okay, wonderful.
Miss, we actually did this in HSB.
Exactly. I remember. I know you all would have done all this in HSB. So you and Jesse and all you other HSB students supposed to be smiling. You're supposed to know all of this. Excellent. All right, so this is everything that I just explained about the formation of urine. All right, made by filtration and reabsorption. So the filtration process would occur right throughout. All right, filtration, the blood is filtered. So substances will leave the blood from the glomerulus into the Bowman's capsule. It will go all the way throughout the nephron. Reabsorption occurs throughout the nephron where these substances, now be it water and glucose and even some of the salts, would be reabsorbed into the blood. All right, so urine is made by the process of filtration and reabsorption. Okay, blood is filtered and useful substances are reabsorbed. Okay. So the job of the kidneys is to make unwanted substances from the blood, unwanted substances from the blood and to pass them on to the bladder, which so that it will then be excreted. So by the time the liquid reaches the pelvis area and drains out into the ureter, that is all unwanted substances. All right. Right. So we just made mention of the Bowman's capsule. Um, and I already explained all of this process. So what happened is that because of the entanglement of the blood capillaries in the glomerulus, that leads to blood pressure building up within that space. So for that reason, the liquid now, the plasma, all of the substances contained in the blood plasma, whatever molecules are small enough to pass through to enter into the nephron at this high pressure point in the glomerulus, they will be passed out and they will enter the nephron. Okay, and that is how the blood is actually squeezed in the glomerulus. All right, but you don't feel the squeezing sensation. All you know is that you eat or you drink and then after a while you had a pee, right? But all of these processes are going on in your body as we speak. Okay, so as I mentioned before, these smaller molecules that are able to pass through are water, salt, glucose, and urea. And you will not find protein in there because proteins are too large to pass through. And you are not supposed to find glucose in urine as well because your body usually reabsorbs all of the glucose. All right, unless you're a diabetic person, you will find sugar in your urine. Okay. And as I also mentioned before, the reabsorption process, we spoke about filtration, which will happen from the glomerulus point, and the reabsorption occurs along the nephron because you have blood capillaries that are entangled right throughout the nephron, so that whatever substances are useful to the body would be reabsorbed. Okay, and that is just the process of reabsorption. And if it is you are given your explanation, you need to utilize your terms such as reabsorption, filtration, and things like that. Because part of your marks are also allocated towards you utilizing these terminologies really well. All right. So about 99% of the water that enters your tubules are reabsorbed. All right. But your kidneys typically filter about 170 liters of water on a daily basis. All right, but about 1.5 liters of urine is produced daily. All right, this is roughly, okay? We, just a rough figure. You can imagine how much 170 liters of water is. All right, the 1.5 liter, y'all could measure that by the Blue Waters big bottle that, you'd usually buy for $5 in the grocery. And then there's 170 liters of water. So yeah, it's quite a lot. So you see, your body does a lot. Your body is always working. And this process is still taking place while you are asleep as well. All right. Because you have a lot of metabolic processes happening while you are sleeping. That is when your body repairs itself. All right. So while you are sleeping, your body is waking. It's kind of like, okay, no, that's not really a good example I was going to use. But basically, while you are sleeping, your body is repairing itself. Metabolic processes are happening. So therefore, you have a lot of waste to get rid of. And that's why you wake up with a full bladder. Sometimes in the middle of the night, depending on how much water you drink. But maybe on a morning, you typically have to pee first. All right. And this is another diagram that you all need to be familiar with. It's just basically one diagram that shows filtration and reabsorption in a kidney tubule, okay? So the small water, such as water, glucose, salts, urea, are squeezed out of blood into renal capsules. So this is the point where filtration happens when it goes out of the blood into the renal capsule. Reabsorption occurs at different points throughout your kidney tubule, where useful substances will be reabsorbed into your bloodstream. And then the remaining liquid is what is called urine, will go down to your ureter, which will then enter into your bladder, and then you pee it out. All right? Does everybody understand these processes up until this point? Is there anybody who is uncertain for any reason? Oh, you're good. Wonderful. Awesome. All right. So one thing that all y'all have understood. All right. I have a video to show y'all. So let's see. Hopefully everything works out well. If the video is given issues, well, just let me know. Okay. Is this the correct video? Yep. Oh gosh. That's not on.
Miss, we don't see any video.
Yeah, and I get it here to put up.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like last time.
No, no. What happened is that I had two videos that I minimized on the taskbar, and the video that I want to show now is not the video that was coming off. So hence the reason I'm looking for it. All right. Okay, so y'all are gonna see it now. Y'all seeing that? It's not playing yet. It paused, but everybody's seeing that?
Yeah, miss.
All right, good. So I'm gonna play it.
It's a hot day, and you've just downed several glasses of water, one after the other. Behind the sudden urge that follows are two bean-shaped organs that work as fine-tuned internal sensors. They balance the amount of fluid in your body, detect waste in your blood, and know when to release the vitamins, minerals, and hormones you need to stay alive. Say hello to your kidneys. The main role of these organs is to dispose of waste products and to turn them into urine. The body's 8 liters of blood pass through the kidneys between 20 and 25 times each day, meaning that together, these organs filter about 180 liters every 24 hours. The ingredients in your blood are constantly changing as you ingest food and drink, which explains why the kidneys need to be on permanent duty. Blood enters each kidney through arteries that branch and branch until they form tiny vessels that entwine with special internal modules called nephrons. In each kidney, 1 million of these nephrons form a powerful array of filters and sensors that carefully sift through the blood. This is where we see just how refined and accurate this internal sensing system is. To filter the blood, each nephron uses 2 powerful pieces of equipment, a blob-like structure called a glomerulus, and a long stringy straw-like tubule. The glomerulus works like a sieve, allowing only certain ingredients, such as vitamins and minerals, to pass into the tubule. Then, this vessel's job is to detect whether any of those ingredients are needed in the body. If so, they're reabsorbed in amounts that the body needs so they can circulate in the blood again. But the blood doesn't only carry useful ingredients. It contains waste products too, and the nephrons have to figure out what to do with them. The tubules sense compounds the body doesn't need, like urea, left over from the breakdown of proteins, and redirects them as urine out of the kidneys and through two long sewers called ureters. These tubes empty their contents into the bladder to be discharged, ridding your body of that waste once and for all. There's water in that urine too. If the kidney detects too much of it in your blood, for instance, when you've chugged several glasses at once, it sends the extra liquid to the bladder to be removed. On the other hand, low water levels in the blood prompt the kidney to release some back into the bloodstream, meaning that less water makes it into the urine. This is why urine appears yellower when you're less hydrated. By controlling water, your kidneys stabilize the body's fluid levels. But this fine balancing act isn't the kidney's only skill. These organs have the power to activate vitamin D to secrete a hormone called renin that raises blood pressure, and another hormone called erythropoietin, which increases red blood cell production. Without the kidneys, our bodily fluids would spiral out of control. Every time we ate, our blood would receive another load of unsifted ingredients. Soon, the buildup of waste would overload our systems and we'd expire. So each kidney not only keeps things running smoothly, it also keeps us alive. Lucky then that we have two of these magical beans.
All right, so I hope you all the video was a little bit insightful. But one thing that the video did not talk about was how the kidneys are, like what is it that trigger the kidneys to, either allow more water to be reabsorbed into the blood or allow it to be passed out in the urine. All right, there is actually a hormone that is responsible for that. So later on we'll get to that, and we'll let the two HSB students who know that they could insight us, they could give us their knowledge on all of those things. So yeah. All right. So with respect to urine, remember, okay, so after the liquid has been processed through the nephron, reabsorption and filtration has occurred, the remaining liquid is called urine, right? That passes out through the end of the nephron, which leads out into the pelvis, and then it goes down to the ureter, right? So we're talking about this point here. All right, this is where your urine would be. It goes all the way through the pelvis down into the ureter, right? From the ureter, it goes all the way down into your bladder. And both you are getting from both the right and the left kidney, and until your bladder reaches a certain point. All right, so your bladder now is actually able to, somebody has a, okay. Your bladder now is actually able to store urine for a little bit of time, not too long. Hence the reason why the longer you wait to pee is the heavier and more uncomfortable you will feel. All right, and of course, holding in your urine is never a good thing. Okay, so what happens is that the reason why your bladder is able to store this urine is because of the sphincter muscle that it has. So let me just go back to that diagram so y'all could see. You see these two little things here, like right there, where the R is, that says sphincter muscle right there. Those actually control the opening of the bladder, all right? And as I was explaining earlier, adults can, easily do this, but babies, they have to, eventually develop that control over their bladder. So hence the reason they will just wet wet themselves. Um, because as urine enters into the bladder, it will just go out there. They don't have any mechanism of holding it in. All right. So yeah, hence the reason our bladder is able to store urine for a short amount of time, not long, until it is released out of the body. All right. And that is our process of excretion. So we've spoken about excretion in plants. Until this point, we've spoken about excretion in mammals. We spoke about how excretion actually occurs in mammals and in plants. We went in depth. We spoke about the kidneys. We outlined the structure of the kidneys, and we also spoke about how urine is produced, how urea is produced, why urea needs to be produced, and so yeah, up until this point, we have completed that aspect. Do you all understand so far? Does anybody have any question up until this point? All right. If at any point you all have any questions, you're free to ask, or if not, once we have gone through everything on the slide, y'all could always ask me any questions after before we dismiss, all right? So basically, once we have finished everything, we finish the questions and all of this, we'll end the meeting, all right? Okay, so now we need to get on to dialysis. All right, so we've spoken about the function in kidneys. Now we need to learn about what it is will happen when your kidneys don't function properly. All right, so we'll know what treatments we have to undergo. So in kidney dialysis. All right. When it is your kidneys aren't functioning properly, remember your waste products will not be filtered out of the blood accurately. And that will lead to a buildup of waste products in your blood. And of course, if it is you don't treat it, you can die, because remember, that's like a buildup of toxins in your body. So you are gradually poisoning yourself. And if you don't treat it, you'll end up dying. Okay. Now, typically, for complete kidney failure, you will need a kidney transplant, or if not, you will be recommended to be put on dialysis. All right. So in the case of kidney transplant, now that one is difficult because it will take a very long while for you to get a kidney, because if somebody doesn't donate a kidney, one of their kidneys, that is, right? If you need a full functioning set of kidneys, because here we're talking about complete failure, you need that from somebody who recently died and whose kidneys still remain in good function and health. All right. And apart from that, getting a transplant means that you have to be ideally matched to the person, so that your body will not reject the organ, because that's what happens whenever it is you have one of your organs removed and another one placed, and your immune system could actually attack that organ. All right. So it is a very risky process, and it doesn't guarantee complete success, because something could end up going wrong. All right. Okay, let me see. Somebody has a question. Okay, why does what happen? Why does the immune system attack the organ, the transplanted organ? All right. Now what happened is that, depending on the type of blood that the organ is associated with, the antigen coating on that blood, once it's different from your blood type, your immune system would look at it as being a foreign enemy. So because your immune system would see it as that way, because of the different antigen coating on the blood, it would attack it. And that is why it will damage it, and you'll basically end up in kidney failure again, or even death if not treated as soon as possible. So that is why whenever it is somebody has to get an organ transplant, it's always best that the donor should be like a close relative, so that the antigens on the blood would be very, very similar to that of your body, so that to decrease the risk of your immune system attacking it. Now, not only that, when a person also gets an organ transplant, they will have to be put on what is called immunosuppressors. And what the name suggests actually, and what it does is that it suppresses the immune system. So it basically suppresses it so that it will not attack the newly transplanted organ. But of course, remember, if it is you are suppressing your immune system, it is then leaving you vulnerable to getting sick and getting infected by a whole host of other things, because it's weakening your defense system just to protect that transplanted organ. But basically, it will only happen because of the difference in the antigen from the blood. All right, that is basically why it would happen. Understand? No problem. You're welcome. Right. Okay, so apart from that, the person will, could be placed on dialysis as well, which basically will perform the same function as your kidneys would. So the dialysis will filter out your blood and then send it back into your body to be circulated, all right? And you would have to do this fairly often, right? Because remember, it's toxins you're dealing with, right? And it's not to say like you'll have to obviously regulate how you eat, what you eat, and so forth, but you will have to do this fairly often, because you cannot allow the toxins to build up too much in your blood, all right, because that will become detrimental. Okay. All right, so what happens in a typical dialysis machine? When the patient is hooked up, it has different ways you can be hooked up to a dialysis machine, right? I'm going to show you all the video about it in a little bit, but I'll explain it first so that you all will be able to recognize it and relate it, right? So what happens is that the doctor will actually create like a shunt or a graft, which will connect an artery to a vein in your arm, right? Once that is done, they will connect that graft to the dialysis machine, which will take the blood from your body, pass it through the dialysis machine, right? It will operate very much like, let me show you all the picture, right? It will operate very much like a whole filtration process, where you will have your dialysis fluid containing all of the nutrients that should be in your blood. So all of those nutrients that should be in your blood will diffuse into your bloodstream, and then the unwanted stuff will diffuse out of your blood into the dialysate, the liquid, all right, which is called the dialysate. All right, so if you look here, you will see that a shunt is added to allow arterial blood to enter a vein, which will then be withdrawn. Okay, so this is how it will be. All right. And then from there, it enters into the dialysis machine. You need a pump to keep the blood moving through the dialyzer quickly. All right. And of course, you need a next entry to keep pumping in dialysis fluid. All right. So that when this red part here represents your blood. Okay. So that as your blood goes through, all of the toxins will naturally diffuse out of your bloodstream and into the dialysis fluid, because remember, you're working with concentration gradients. So whatever is not present in the blood will naturally diffuse in, and whatever is not present in the dialysate will naturally diffuse out. So that is how the filtration process will happen. And then eventually now, your blood, the newly filtered blood, will go back into your body and sent about to circulate. All right. Let me show you all the video so that you will be able to have a better visual of that. Okay, so I'm just stopping the screen for a bit. And this video would actually be showing different ways in which this could happen. Oh man, didn't I? This doesn't share. All right, I'm playing it now.
Your doctor may recommend dialysis, a procedure that removes waste products from your blood if your kidneys are not functioning properly. Healthy kidneys filter out waste, excess fluid, and electrolytes like potassium and sodium from the blood. These waste products exit the body through the urethra in the form of urine. If you have kidney disease, your kidneys gradually lose function, leading to an accumulation of harmful wastes and excess fluid in your body, increased blood pressure, and bone or blood problems. Dialysis can also be done to treat acute kidney failure, which occurs when your kidneys stop working suddenly, or to remove drugs or poisons from your body. In one type of dialysis, called hemodialysis, your doctor will use a machine called a dialyzer to clean your blood outside your body. Some weeks or months before you begin hemodialysis, your doctor will prepare a vascular access site on your body. Your doctor will create either an arteriovenous graft or an arteriovenous fistula to access your bloodstream. To begin, he or she will numb the area with local anesthesia. To construct an arteriovenous graft, your surgeon will make a small incision in your forearm and insert a soft plastic tube called a graft to connect an artery to a vein. To create an arteriovenous fistula, your surgeon will make a small incision in your skin and connect an artery with a vein to make a larger vessel called a fistula. Once your vascular access site has healed, your doctor can start hemodialysis. To begin, your dialysis nurse will insert 2 needles into your AV fistula or graft. Once the circuit is set up, your blood will flow slowly out of your body and through the dialyzer. Inside the dialyzer, your blood will encounter filtering fibers and an absorbent cleaning solution called dialysate. The fibers will remove waste and excess fluids and electrolytes from your blood. Your cleaned blood will emerge from the dialyzer and continue through the tubing back into your body through the second needle at your access site. When your hemodialysis session is complete, the needles and tubing are removed, and you can go home. In another type of dialysis, your doctor will use the membranes lining your abdomen, called the peritoneum, to clean your blood without removing it from your body. Before you begin peritoneal dialysis, you will have an operation to implant a soft tube called a catheter. Your surgeon will insert the catheter near your belly button, creating a port through which the dialysate will enter and leave your abdomen. Each peritoneal dialysis session is called an exchange. First, you will use your catheter to fill your abdomen with dialysate for a period of time determined by your doctor. Through the peritoneal membrane, waste products and extra fluid are continuously drawn out of your blood into the dialysate. Along with the waste materials it absorbed, the dialysate will drain out of your abdomen into a disposable collection bag during your exchange.
All right, so there you saw two types of dialysis, right? One that actually involved the dialyzer, and then the other one that actually the peritoneal one. All right, but the one that y'all should most, the one that y'all need to be familiar with is just this one with the dialyzer. Okay, so where they spoke about creating the graft and the fistula and so forth, and how the blood passes through the dialyzer and goes, and then eventually your filtered blood returns back to your body. That is the process you all need to be familiar with, okay? Do you all understand the process, or is it still a bit hazy to anybody? Wonderful. Emily says she understand. Everybody else, you all understand? All right, so once everybody is up to speed, if any question pops up afterwards, you'll are free to ask, okay? And even when you all are revising, you can always post your questions on the group chat or email me directly, and I'll try my best to answer the questions for you, okay? All right, so continuing. Well, okay, so we have to talk about kidney transplants, right? But I actually explained all of this when I was answering Dimitri's question about the immune system attacking the organ. So really and truly, when it is you are making a decision between getting a kidney transplant or going on dialysis, the main thing that you need to consider would be quality of life. So quality of life now and also in the future. All right. So when it is you are talking about transplanting an organ, you need to be very careful. All right. As I had mentioned earlier, typically a close relative or family member, like a brother or sister, could donate the kidney once they are a match. And typically the doctors will have to test their blood type to see if it will match. Okay. Because if it doesn't, your immune system could become quite aggressive. Now, even in that case as well, it's still risky. So even after somebody receives an organ, they still have to take immunosuppressants, all right, which would suppress the immune system or kind of calm the immune system down so that it will not interfere or destroy the transplanted organ, all right? And because of that now, because you are suppressing the immune system to decrease your chances of rejection, you will become susceptible to actually getting really sick, all right? You could get all types of diseases and viruses and whatever. You'll be at risk, all right? You will have to take the immunosuppressant drugs for life, but you know, once you do your part to remain healthy, take care of yourself, take care of the organ, you should be able to live a normal, healthy life after. A person as well who donates like one kidney can function properly, live a normal, healthy life with that one kidney. Um, it's not to say like, you know, it would put like a real considerable amount of strain on your body. But of course, it's always best to have your two kidneys. But let's just say push come to shove and you need to donate. You can, and you will live a full normal life after you have donated that one kidney. All right, you could be just fine. All right. And remember, what determines whether or not your immune system attacks the organ would be the antigen coating on the outside of the cells, right? So once the cells of the organ have the similar or close antigens, as compared to, you know, the rest of the cells of the human body, well, then it will not react to it. If it's different, it will react to it, similar to how it will react to a pathogen. Because remember, anything different, as in what is not already there within your body is considered to be foreign, and therefore your immune system will attack it and act accordingly. All right. Okay, now the final thing that we need to talk about is osmoregulation. All right. Now, basically, osmoregulation is just maintaining the fluid concentration inside organisms. All right. So your body will balance out the amount of water and salts that enter and leave the body. So therefore, your kidneys are responsible for maintaining this level, this concentration level. All right. Um, so what happened is that we, as humans, we have our skin, all right, which is waterproof, and that means that you don't just absorb water anytime water hits you. It rolls off your skin, all right. If it is our skin was not like this and we used to absorb water, then we would just become waterlogged blobs, and yeah, we wouldn't be able to survive. That wouldn't make any sense, right? So therefore, our skin has to be waterproof, okay, to prevent any external water from coming in. So that's one way that we regulate water content, but then that's on the outside. The main job is actually on the inside, which is what your kidneys would be responsible for. And just now, remember, we were talking about how the fluids are regulated in your blood as it passes through the nephron. So what will happen is that whatever final substances that your blood needs, be it water, not too much salt though, but mainly water and glucose and those things, it will absorb that. All right. So this is what will happen. Now, not only that, but remember we spoke about your hypothalamus, the hypothalamus of your brain, when it is we were dealing with the skin. So what happens is that this hypothalamus will sense what is going on in your bodily fluid concentration. So it senses everything. It senses temperature and it reacts accordingly. It senses changes in fluid, blood glucose level, all of this. So your hypothalamus plays a big role in osmoregulation and also homeostasis. All right. Well, basically, hypothalamus plays a huge role in everything in your bodily functions, right? So yeah. So let me tell you now how it is your hypothalamus works when your fluid concentrations vary. All right. So what happens is that the hypothalamus is able to sense the amount of water in the cells of the blood which flows through it. All right. So it will sense whether the water concentration is high or whether it's low. If the concentration of water is not enough, all right, if you are dehydrated, your hypothalamus, all right, will cause another gland, which is called your pituitary gland. It is actually located very close to the hypothalamus. Let me show you all where it's located. So here we have our hypothalamus, this little area right here. And your pituitary gland is actually just right here, close to your hypothalamus. So it's located just behind by your nose, all right, by the bone of your nose there. And it sits on that bone, the sella turcica, which is right here, okay, which is that bone right behind your nose. All right, so they are closely linked together and they are connected. All right, your pituitary gland is essential because that does all of the hormonal control of your body. All right, so anytime, like let's just say there's a person who is suffering from a pituitary tumor, or there's a tumor that's growing around by the pituitary gland, all of the functions of the pituitary gland would be impaired, meaning that growth hormones would be altered, thyroid hormones, everything would be altered in your body that the pituitary gland would be responsible for, including regulating bodily fluids, right, and the concentration thereof. So your pituitary gland, hypothalamus, they are all essential in bodily functions, right? So this is right where it sits. All right, and this bone is actually in the back of your nose by a nasal bone there. All right, and this is your hypothalamus. So see how close? So therefore, when the hypothalamus, which is here, senses that the blood passing through it doesn't have enough water, it will then signal the pituitary gland, which is right here, to secrete a hormone which is called ADH, also called anti-diuretic hormone. All right. This ADH is taken directly into the blood. So it is very soluble. So it dissolves into the blood one time and it goes straight to the kidneys, right? And this hormone now will have an effect on the nephrons in the sense that once that hormone reaches the kidneys and enters the nephrons, it will cause the capillaries around the nephrons to reabsorb more water, even more water from the urine. All right, so it would have absorbed a certain amount before, but hey, the hypothalamus is sensing that there is not enough. So therefore, it sends for this hormone. When that hormone goes, it's telling the kidneys, oi, we still need more water, so you need to absorb more water. All right, when that happens, a lot more water goes back into the blood instead of being passed out, because remember, this is now indicating that the body needs water, it lacks water. So therefore, it goes back into the blood, and the urine that is produced is less, but it's highly concentrated. So if you all ever had that experience where you peed and is not much pee that came out, but it's really yellow, right? That means you are very dehydrated, all right? However, if it is you drink way too much water, or yeah, you drink a lot of water, all right? And Nirvana, yeah, Nirvana, that happens to a lot of us, I'm sure. Quite a few, like all those times when it is, I going for the whole day and not drinking water and the place hot and you're sweating, so you're losing a lot of water. Yeah, but that is not good, right? That we must always strive to make sure that the level, the type of urine that we get is more is clear on just pale but not bright yellow. All right. And then a lot of times, the more protein that you ingest in your diet could lead to a higher amount of urea produced in your urine, and which could account for a brighter yellow urine as compared to others. All right, because sometimes it would be like a darker yellow as compared to a brighter yellow. So one could indicate dehydration, and the other one could indicate not only dehydration but excess protein, right? So we need to monitor that and be careful. All right, so that is what happens when it is the water concentration in your blood is too low. If it's too high, then the hypothalamus will not secrete any anti-diuretic hormone, because it'll be like, hey, the water concentration good now, right? So no need to secrete anything to absorb any amount of water. So once that happens, then a large amount of urine will be produced, which contains a lot of water. So you will pee very frequently, and what happens is that the amount of water in your urine will be a lot more. So you would pee and it would be practically clear. And you're now done pee, and then you feel like you had to pee again. So that's technically how it goes, right? Which I'm sure you all can relate to as well, right? Yeah, Nirvana. Once when you're doing detox, yeah, your urine will be yellower, because remember, detox is you detoxifying, which is you getting rid of toxins in your body. So it'll be extra yellow, and yep. Okay, so that is what happens when you are dehydrated versus when you are overly hydrated. All right, so if it is you have to explain such a thing, you must include anti-diuretic hormone, hypothalamus of the brain, and your pituitary gland. Okay. The last thing that I have to make mention of, well, is just actually not to make mention of, just basically to discuss really because we spoke about all of this. So when it is you eat a lot of highly salted food, all right, or just anything sugary or whatever it might be, or you lose a lot of water because of sweating, remember the concentration of in your blood, the concentration of water will be decreased, right? So the concentration of fluid in your blood will be sensed by the hypothalamus. It will tell the pituitary gland to secrete ADH into the blood to dilute the fluids in it. Because remember, if it is to eat salty food, it means that your water content would be lesser and the salt content would be greater. Hence the reason you will feel thirsty after eating extra salty or extra sugary food, because you have increased the level of salt or sugar in your blood. All right, and you're craving water because that is your body telling you, hey, I need more water. We need to balance out this. All right, so once that happens, ADH will be carried to your kidneys, cause them to reabsorb water, and you have concentrated urine. All right, and then the opposite will happen if you have excess intake of not all fluids, but mainly water, because if it is you have the excess intake of soft drinks or extra sugary juice, then you will pee, yes, but your pee will still be concentrated because remember, it is not pure water you're drinking, right? So excess intake of water will lead to no ADH being secreted to the kidneys, and dilute urine will be produced. All right. So Talma, you all understand? Everything was easily laid out. You all have the whole image in your minds. You could get total on a question that, involves this topic and other topics. Yeah, Emily, you definitely ought to get total because you're doing it for the second time. You already did this in HSV, so you and Jesse have no excuse. But I'm glad you understand though. All right. Is there anybody who has any questions so far? Well, still, you can still utilize your HSB knowledge to, get your total. All right. So once, okay, Nirvana, I assume that means yes. Nahi, you don't understand? Okay. You meant no as in you have no questions because you understand. Okay, I understand. No problem. Well, once everybody understands, right? Okay, so just before you'll go, I have to bother you with questions. All right, so if you'll, okay, so remember this question, right? This is the same part of the same question we were doing with the concentration of the solutes, right? So look at salt. You would see that salts in the blood in the renal artery and the fluid in the kidney tubule and in the urine, you'll see how it is, right? So you see salts 8.0 in the renal artery and 8.0 in the kidney tubule, but 16.5 in the urine. So they want you for this question now to describe the results for the concentration of salts shown in tables. So in the table 1.1. So if you are to describe the results for the salt concentration, you have to describe why blood in the renal artery and the fluid in the kidney tubule has the same concentration of salt, right? And why it is doubled in the urine. Yeah, so go ahead. What do you think? Think about it. Remember, urine on a regular is supposed to contain salt, right? So, and then remember, for urine to contain all that amount of salt, it means that within the kidney tubule, it would not have been absorbed. So you'll have to state why and describe why. You'll have to utilize figures from the table. So you need to talk about how much salt is actually found in the blood in the renal artery, how much salt is found in the fluid in the kidney tubule, and the urine. Right. Yeah, the kidney was filtering the salt, yeah, but remember, what does it mean when the figure of salt in the urine reached 16.5? It was higher, not lower. But what does that mean? Remember, by the time you get to urine, what has happened? What No, the filtration system works fine. This is salt and not glucose. Oh. Sure, look at right here. I'm going down a little bit. Right. So this one, describe the results for the concentration of salts shown in table 1.1. So look salts here, and then we see that the blood in the renal artery has 8.0 grams per dm cube of salt. The fluid in the kidney tubule also has 8.0 grams per dm cube. And then in the urine, it has 16.5 grams per dm cube, right? So this is a high amount of salt. Well, not only is high, but look at, they want to know why the concentration of salts are like this. So seeing that how the question has to do with the kidney and filtration and all of that, you all need to utilize these figures to explain why the salt concentration is like this. All right, now remember, for whatever, okay, for glucose, protein, salt, and urea, right? If it is, you find this in the urine, it means that the body does not need it, right? And whatever is not present in the urine means that it would have been reabsorbed into the blood. Because remember, urine is formed from reabsorption and filtration. First, the blood in the renal artery would have to be filtered to enter into the kidney tubule, right? Remember, it will enter into the renal capsule, Bowman's capsule, right? When that happens, now what these figures are actually saying is that the same amount, all of the salt that was found in the blood entered into the kidney tubule. So that means that these salt crystals, these dissolved salts, right, are small enough to pass through to enter into the nephron, right, and all of it entered. And then now, for the urine output to contain 16.5 grams per dm cube of salts means that no salt was reabsorbed into the bloodstream, because the bloodstream, the body doesn't need it. Because if it had been reabsorbed, then it would have meant that either the salt content is low, right? Well, yeah, typically would have meant that the typical salt content of the body would have been low. But the mere fact that it didn't absorb any amount means that the salt content of the body was already good. So if more salt would have been absorbed, then that would have led to an imbalance in the fluid concentration. All right. So, because remember, the whole point of this is to balance fluid concentration and amount of water in the body and all of that. So that is, in essence, what it would have meant, right? Y'all understand? Let's see how much for that question. Right. So 2 marks, you utilize, sorry, you utilize your data from the table. Utilize your data from the table, and that was all you had to explain. All right, that none of the salts were reabsorbed, and hence all were passed out into the urine because it was not needed by the body. All right. So yeah, and make sure you utilize your data from the table. Everybody understands that question now? Dimitri, you understand? Desha, Nirvana, everybody, Jesse, who like a goose? Wonderful. Glad you all understand. Excellent. All right, let me get to the next part. Right. The next part of the question asks you to state the reason for the difference in the concentration of protein between blood in the renal artery and fluid in the kidney tubules. So blood in the renal artery and fluid in the kidney tubules. So they're asking you to account for the concentration of protein. Look at how much protein we have in the renal artery of the blood, and look how much protein we have in the kidney tubule. Why do you think that this is the difference? What account for this difference? Difference in protein, the amount of protein found in the blood. Excellent, Dimitri, because the protein molecules are too big to pass through the blood vessels. Very good, in the glomerulus. So hence the reason all of the protein would have remained in the blood and you wouldn't have any in the kidney tubule or the urine. Excellent. Right, and that was your 1 mark question. Right, and state the reason for the difference in the concentration of glucose between fluid in the kidney tubule and in the urine. So let's look at the concentration of glucose now. Wait, what is that? Kidney tubule and urine, right. So here versus here, glucose. So you will see that we had 0.9 grams per dm cube of glucose in the renal artery, the blood in the renal artery. But then we also had the same concentration of glucose in the fluid in the kidney tubule, but then we had 0 present in the urine. So account for that difference. No, it wasn't stored in the kidney. Right, so it would have been reabsorbed. Reabsorbed is the word you were looking for the addition, not stored. Remember, for glucose, it would have been, if there's any storage of glucose, that would take place in the liver, right? In the form of glycogen. But glucose would be needed by the body. So hence, even though the molecules are small enough to fit through the blood vessel, the blood capillaries, to enter into the glomerulus, right? It would go through the nephron, but because glucose is something that is needed by the body, it would be reabsorbed by the blood capillaries as it goes through the kidney tubule. All right. You understand, Desha? Awesome. Now remember, if it is right that we had a percentage of glucose in the urine, what would that have indicated for the person, for this person, if we had glucose present in the urine? Yes, very good. It would have indicated that they have diabetes, because the excess, that would then indicate that there's so much blood glucose, all right, going through the body that it does not need to absorb anymore. So whatever glucose is filtered into the kidney tubule will just pass through and will then become part of the urine. So it means that the person is diabetic. Excellent. All right. Okay, so we could do this last question before I free you all. Dialysis is a treatment used for people with kidney failure. Some people with kidney failure are given a kidney transplant. So state the advantages of having a kidney transplant instead of dialysis. So tell me, why do you all think it would be best to have a kidney transplant instead of going through dialysis? They said state the advantages and you have 3 marks, so therefore 3 advantages will suffice. If you give more, no problem, but you will be given 3 marks for 3 advantages. So give me 3 advantages. Yes, you wouldn't be bound to a machine, so you'll be more free. So better quality of life. You don't need to go to the health center continuously. Yeah. Yep, better functions of the excretory system since you have 2 actual kidneys. Very good. So all in all, your advantages add up to better quality of life. So you will have 2 actual kidneys. All you need to do is take your immunosuppressors, but basically once everything is working fine, it means that your body will be filtering out toxins as normal. All right, you wouldn't be as sick. All right, so basically when you have to be hooked up to the dialysis machine. I mean, it could be painful, and you'll feel sick with it, right? So and then remember, by the length of time that it takes you to actually go to get the dialysis treatment again, means that all of these toxins will be accumulating in your body. So, but if it is you have a transplant, remember those kidneys will be functioning as normal once the immunosuppressants are, working well and all is well, right? So it's all about better quality of life, but excellent answers for you all. Let me see if they had anything else that they wanted to add to that. Right, so they have idea of convenience. So just as how Desha said that no need to visit the hospital or health center, no time is taken up with dialysis, you have an improved quality of life, and then it is more cost effective long term. So even though you would have how to say it would be expensive for the surgery. In the long run, it'll work out cheaper because remember, every time you have to go and do dialysis, it's taking up money. So for that reason, it works out cost effective in the long run. All right. Okay, so that brings us to the end. Excellent work. You all answered the questions really well. Do you all understand the answers that we derived at for these questions? These came from the 2019 GCE paper. And that was with 15 marks. Yeah, Dimitri, shoot. To regenerate in terms of cells? Oh, no problem. Take care, Nirvana. Be safe. Love you too. Yeah, so to regenerate just like the liver. Yes, it would, but if it is you remove one, unfortunately, it will not regenerate. If only it will like that. Yeah, if only it did happen. But no. Just like your brain, well, your brain cells don't replenish themselves. But yeah. Could have. So like if in case you lose one or you donate one for your body but then remember too, that is like forming a whole, okay, so In the case of your liver, your liver cells would replenish, and I guess it's softer tissue, so it's easier for your body to replenish that one to grow a new liver as compared to growing a new kidney. I think a kidney has a lot more in it and is a bit more complex. I feel that it might probably be harder for your body to generate a new kidney as compared to generating a new liver. I don't know, in my opinion. You're welcome. All right. Okay. All right then. No problem. So, okay, so I'm going to send you all the recording for today's session. I also have some concise notes that I scanned for you all, so I'll send that too. And the videos that I showed you all today, I think I sent it to you already, you know. Oh yes, and I did send you your homework as well. So you all can send me that. Dimitri, thanks for submitting your assignment as well. I emailed you already. So yeah. Look out for my email and be safe. We have class we have class tomorrow, 5 to 8 p.m. So I look forward to seeing you all then as well. Okay. So take care, be safe, and enjoy what remains of your Sunday. Until bye.